You knew the night would not end like the others, the anniversary marked by absence rather than celebration. The table sat perfectly set, untouched plates gleaming under the dim chandelier, a cruel stage for the silence that swallowed the room. The city's hum outside mocked the stillness within. You waited, eyes fixed on the door that never opened. The clock ticked with merciless precision, seconds stretching into heavy minutes as your phone buzzed once. A message from an unknown number, nothing more than a line of code and a location. Your wife's silence was a betrayal sharper than any confession. You felt the weight of the envelope resting beside your untouched wine glass. They thought your love was unbreakable. But beneath the polished veneer, the cracks were deepening. You slid the envelope open, the paper crisp with secrets. Inside, a photo lay folded, grainy and marked with dates, evidence of a life you never knew she led. The signal came through clear. This was no mere absence, but a message sent in shadows. Your marriage was a front. The true war was just beginning, and you were the unsuspecting general. The air grew thick, the room's shadows seeming to lean in closer. You traced the outline of her face in the photo, realizing the woman you married was a stranger caught in a web of espionage and corporate games. The envelope carried more than secrets. It held the key to a betrayal that cut to the bone. They thought you blind, but you were only waiting for the right moment to see. The signal came through again as your phone vibrated softly on the table. A recording, a voice you recognized but hadn't heard in years, confirming the worst fears you dared not name. The message was clear. The game had changed, and the board was set for a reckoning far beyond personal heartache. You weren't just a husband abandoned, you were a player betrayed in a high-stakes war. The city lights flickered outside, mirroring the turmoil inside you. The envelope's weight shifted in your hands as you folded it back carefully, knowing this was no accident but a calculated strike. You thought your marriage was sacred, but the truth was far more dangerous. The night had twisted into a dark prologue, and the empire you helped build was at the mercy of invisible enemies. You lit a cigarette, the smoke curling like the memories of a past life you could never reclaim. The silence in the room became a battlefield, every heartbeat a warning. Your wife's absence was the first move in a silent war, and you knew now the cost of your silence would be paid in full. The signal came through one last time, a countdown to chaos you were ready to unleash. They thought the gleam of the boardroom lights masked their true intentions, but you knew better. The polished mahogany reflected not power, but desperation, cloaked in arrogance. Your absence from the table was the silence that spoke volumes. They toasted your ruin with glasses raised high, the clinking echoing like a death knell through the glass walls. The signal came through as the first sip touched. Their lips, hidden cameras you planted months ago, captured every smile, every subtle glance of betrayal. They celebrated a victory they thought was inevitable, unaware the night was scripted for their downfall. The empire they prided themselves on was built on shaky foundations, and you held the proof. You watched from the shadows, a ghost among traitors, as their whispered alliances solidified into chains meant to bind you forever. They thought your silence was weakness. It was patience sharpened like a blade waiting for the perfect strike. The champagne bubbled over, mirroring the rising storm in your mind. The toast was their undoing, a recorded testament to their deceit. The room flickered under the dim lights, the air thick with false camaraderie and hidden daggers. You knew every word, every gesture was another nail in their coffin. The signal came through again, a ping from the secure line, confirmation that the files were ready to be unleashed. The betrayal recorded that night would become their public confession. Their smiles faded as the first headlines broke across encrypted feeds only you controlled. The boardroom, once their fortress, became a cage as news of backdoor deals and insider treachery spread like wildfire. You saw the panic rise, the scramble to contain the damage, but it was too late. The empire's foundation crumbled beneath the weight of truth. You raised your glass alone in the quiet aftermath, the echoes of their toast ringing in your ears. The night's silence was no longer empty but charged with the power of impending justice. You were no longer the betrayed, but the architect of retribution. The signal came through one last time, a countdown to the reckoning they never saw coming. You knew the corridors whispered secrets sharper than knives, their echoes carrying betrayals you once called friendship. They moved like shadows behind, closed doors, plotting futures stolen from your hands and selling your legacy for their fleeting power. Their confidence was built on your silence, a deadly mistake that underestimated the storm gathering just beyond their reach. The signal came through once more, a subtle alert embedded in a routine system update. Hidden cameras captured every whispered plan, every secret handshake disguised as loyalty. You traced the faces of allies turned enemies, their smiles masking the venom they'd injected into your empire. They thought you blind and broken, but patience was your weapon, your silent vigil before the strike. The boardroom lights flickered like they knew what was coming, a portent of collapse echoing in every heartbeat. The hidden surveillance revealed a web of espionage deeper than imagined, a conspiracy that wove through contracts, meetings, and late-night rendezvous. They sold your future in pieces, each deal another brick in the wall meant to imprison you. You watched their arrogance swell as the files piled, ready for release, their hubris blinding them to the coming storm. They thought the night's toast was the final blow, but you held the master key to their ruin. The empire they'd stolen was about to fall, and the silence they cherished was about to become their loudest enemy. The whispers behind closed doors turned to chaos as leaks orchestrated slipped through encrypted channels, ghost identities ensuring no trace but the truth remained. The empire's walls cracked, the foundation shaken by revelations of corruption and deceit. You stood at the edge of their downfall, the architect of a reckoning that would silence their lies forever. The signal came through one last time, a quiet countdown echoing in the digital shadows, heralding the collapse you'd waited years to unleash. They ran from the boardroom with headlines chasing them, their empire dissolving beneath the weight of betrayal. You ascended as they fell, the silent storm no one saw coming. You knew the audit was more than a routine check. It was your final move in a game played long in shadows. The silence you kept was a mask, a patient waiting for the moment to unleash the chaos hidden in cold files and encrypted secrets. The boardroom lights flickered again, an ominous pulse as you triggered the fallout that would unravel everything they stole. They thought their backdoor deals were invisible, but the audit was your signal, your strike from the ghost identity. You crafted with surgical precision. The files leaked like a controlled flood, exposing every bribe, every lie, every betrayal woven into the empire they claimed as theirs. The signal came through, the digital proof that their reign was ending. The empire trembled as global headlines erupted, investors fleeing, partners severing ties, and the betrayer's name dragged through the muck they tried to hide beneath. Layers of power. You watched from the shadows as the fortress they built began to collapse, their confident faces cracking under the weight of exposure. You had ascended while their world crumbled. The betrayer ran from the boardroom, the flashing cameras and accusing headlines a relentless storm chasing them into silence. Their empire was no more. The power they stole returned like a boomerang, crushing all they'd built. The signal came through one last time, confirmation of your victory, the silent unraveling of a traitor in plain sight. You stood amidst the wreckage, the quiet aftermath heavier than any battle cry. The envelope's secrets had ignited a fire that burned away deceit and left truth standing. Your silence was not weakness, but the calm before a karmic storm, the reckoning that toppled kings and rebuilt empires. The boardroom lights dimmed, the final act played out in shadows and whispers.